All right, we are live now, but just give me a few seconds. Let's share the link with the participants so they can join us live.
Okay, the YouTube link, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, I want to share my WhatsApp first also. So
I'm going to send you the link, okay?
okay.
You have it in the comments now.
Can you send it to the group, to the mentees group?
Yes, I'll do that right away.
Okay. We're live now.
Yes, please. Okay, so we are live now. Let's give them like 3 to 5, maybe 3 minutes. Then we can get started. Yeah, live. Okay. Do you think we should bring those who are in the studio in, or we should keep them at the background for now?
You can bring them. Okay, maybe you can bring them in. I think you should bring them in. It's not a problem.
So, guys, you're welcome. We are live now, and the class will kick started in another 2 to 3 minutes. We just need to show a few more people join us so that we can get started. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Adekunle, probably we can start with a form of intro, right? Then right on from there. Okay, let me quickly say this. I don't know if Ms. Adekunle can hear me. Guys,
I can hear you, sir.
For those of you who are joining us live, you have to ensure that you take your time to put down questions and contributions so that we can make the session engaging and more, interesting for those who will be participating, especially from the outside, like LinkedIn and the rest of it. Okay? Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I think more people are joining us on YouTube. Yeah.
What do you know now?
Okay, more people are joining us on
What do you know now?
You might need to
I think
kill
I'm getting
the sound.
some
You might need
noise,
to kill the
background
sound on your
noise.
system. You might need to kill the sound on your system. With
It's
your
gone from my
laptop.
hand.
Yes, from your laptop. Kill the sound.
It's
Kill.
gone from my hand. It's from somewhere else.
Oh, you
Not here.
killed the sound.
Yes.
Okay, then it's not from your end.
It's gone from my hand. From somewhere else.
If anybody is using two devices, if you are connecting on YouTube and you are in the studio, you'll be having this problem. Do you understand now? If you are connecting on YouTube, you are in the studio, you'll be affecting us. You know, in those days when you want to call radio station or TV, you also want to hear yourself. You want to see how it's going. And they will tell you from the radio station that if you are calling us, tune down your radio. So that's how it works. It will interfere.
Okay, I think it's gone now.
Yes, it's gone now. It's gone now. Okay, so I think we should get started. We already have people who are live and waiting for us. Mr. Adekunle, you can take the floor.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're watching from. Adekunle, Olusanya here. It's, I trust it's going to be an interesting night. Cool, and I want this to be very engaging and interactive. So we've got some people in the studio. Mr. Femi, thank you. Mr. Timothy, Mr. Phil, thanks for coming in tonight. So today we're looking at a very practical topic. We're talking about product strategy. So at sourcing business, one of our faculties is business analysis, and business analysis is a very wide discipline, very wide, so much so that it covers almost every aspect of non-code tech. So by non-code tech, I mean every aspect of tech that doesn't have to do with code. So it cuts across business analysis, business intelligence, product management, project management. So one of the things we decided to do is to zoom in on specific areas of business analysis, or specific parts of tech that are non-code, but then where you apply skills you've learned in the business analysis mentorship program. So today we're talking about product strategy, and this is the first bullet. It's very wide. It's not possible to exhaust the curriculum in one night, in 1 hour and 30 minutes. So we'll try to look at the foundations of crafting the product strategy. So if you want to know more than the foundations, you can DM me for DM me for a lengthy session. So today we're looking at crafting the product strategy, and we'll be starting by looking at the product. What is a product? I'm sharing my screen now. Can you see my screen? Can anyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so what's the product? Now, what I have here is a product is a tangible object, service, or system that can be made available on the market to meet customer needs. The product is a tangible object, service, or system that can be made available on the market to meet customer needs. More generically, a product is anything that can be offered on the market to meet customer needs. Now, let me quickly explain the transition from project to product. Anyone in the tech domain who has been in tech for some time will know that this old boss, the product boss is new, and for the past couple of years, 5 to 10 years, there's now a lot of noise around product management, product strategy. There's now people who hold roles, who are referred to as product managers, head of products. Before now, what we get to hear is project management. But there's been a transition from project to product for the past couple of years, especially with the proliferation of tech, of applications, mobile applications, web applications. Now, generally, products refers to the what, while projects refers to the how. So what I mean is the product is the what, the service you're offering, the object, the tangible object that you say here, the system, while projects refers to the how. So typically, um, the project management is how you deliver the products, whereas products is the what you deliver. So there's been a steady transition from project to product over the past couple of years because, like I said, because of the proliferation of tech. So you hear more people hold product manager roles than in the past, than 20 years ago, than 10 years ago. Up until now, so a lot of rules that you see on job boards, and those roles are the title project manager roles. But in reality, they're actually product roles. So there's been a transition from project to product, and I feel that whoever would be relevant in the tech space today must understand why we have this transition and what is responsible for it. So moving on, the product is a tangible object, service, or system. Now, there's some key terms here. The first term is service. A product might be a service. So, traditionally, maybe when we were much younger, when we were much younger, when you hear the word product, what comes to your mind is something you can hold, maybe piece of piece of piece of pen or laptop computer. Those were the traditional products. But nowadays, we've got we've got software applications that are products. We've got marketing, marketing products. So the sourcing business sells a product. Sourcing business has a mentorship program, and we call that a product. It's a product. Sourcing business mentorship program is a product. So we have a product that is a service. So second term is market, and the third term is customer, and the fourth is needs. We'll treat all of this one after the other as we go ahead. Please, if you have any questions, those in the studio can feel free to interrupt, and we can address it. So these are the key terms. Now moving on, strategy. So we're talking about product strategy. Now, this is a word that is often used by everybody, but very few people understand what it means, what the word strategy really means. Now, I'm not talking about how it's defined in the dictionary. I'm talking about what strategy really means. So I say here that strategy is a deliberately selected set of choices aimed at achieving a set of objectives. Deliberately selected set of choices. Now, reading down, strategy is a plan of action geared towards achieving a specific goal. It's a plan of action geared towards achieving a specific goal. So it's a deliberately selected set of choices. So if you're taking strategy, so we're saying like a business organization, there's a plan of action. You have a goal, and you decide to do certain things in order to attain that goal. So strategy is deliberate. Now, I say strategy is deliberate and intentional. And I go on to say strategy is deciding what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and why to do it. Strategy is deciding what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and why we do it. That's strategy. There's a very common saying when I was much younger. So when we were playing football in Nigeria, some people they call anywhere the left face. Anywhere they face, that's where they will kick the ball. So if you pass the ball to them and the goalpost is to their left, but if their tummy is facing the right, they just push the right. So now a company that runs without strategy is a company that does anywhere the left face. Now a business should have a set of choices, decide what they want to do, how they want to do it, when they want to do it, and why they want to do it. So for me, the word that is most synonymous with strategy for me is choice. Choice. That's the word that's most synonymous with strategy. So if you try to wrap your mind around what it means, what strategy means, just say choice. It means choice. What are you choosing to do as a business in your career? What are you choosing to do? Is there a plan of action? So when we say they have a strategy for your career, you work in a place and you've been there for say 5 years. Is there a strategy? Are you saying I want to work as manager for 3 years, then pursue a master's degree, then become director by the time I turn 40, then become chief executive by the time I turn 50? Is there a plan of action? Is there a set of choices? What are the things that you've chosen to do? So choice is perhaps the word that is most synonymous strategy for me. So like I've said here, choices. Now, what have we chosen to do as a business? What have we chosen to do? How have we chosen to do it? When have we chosen to do it? Why have we chosen to do it? Now, these are elements of strategy. The big word here is choice. Choices. What are you choosing to do? Now, I'm breaking down strategy and product so that you understand these two words independently, individually. It talks about product, how it's a service, it's a marketable service, and strategy, how it's a deliberate plan of action, selecting a set of choices. Now we're saying the biggest word here is choices. Moving on. So I said that the single biggest difference between an organization driven by strategy and one that isn't is one does what it chooses to do to achieve a specific set of results, while the other does whatever has to be done to stay afloat. Now, there are two companies, Company A and Company B. Company A is driven by strategy, the other one, Company B, is not. Difference is Company A does what it chooses to do to achieve a specific set of results, while Company B does whatever has to be done to stay afloat. And sadly, I'll be using this example, and it's sad for me, but I have to do this. Nigeria as a country happens to be a country that does whatever it has to do to stay afloat. It's not driven by strategy. I think that's perhaps the easiest example to relate with. As people who live in Nigeria and people who live in Africa who know about Nigeria. So a company, an organization, a career, or whatever entity that is driven by strategy is one that does what it chooses to do to achieve a specific set of results. So if you're saying you work in a place, you earn $5,000 a month, and you've chosen to save $2,000 every month, 5 years, for a reason, because you intend to buy a house. And the plan is once you buy that house, you want to put it off for rent, to generate some extra income. That's some sort of strategy. You have this, there are things that you've chosen to, there are choices you have made, and you want to achieve a specific set of results. And this is just foundations of strategy. So moving on. So let's move on to product strategy. Now, I'm trying to not move too fast so that you can soak all of this in. Yeah, but if you have questions, you can feel free to, the studio, feel free to interrupt me and ask a question. Now, a set of choices aimed at achieving an organization's business objectives as touching a particular marketable entity. This is how I define product strategy. It's a set of choices aimed at achieving an organization's business objectives as touching a particular marketable entity. So there's a business, there's a company, you have an organization, and there has to be a set of choices, like we've said before, the things that you have chosen to do. And the aim here is to achieve your company's objectives. Okay, so you've said this is 2022. In the next 5 years, we want to hit the $1 billion revenue mark as a company, or we want to have 1,000 clients, 1,000 users on our platform in the next 6 months. That's a goal. That's a business objective. Now, what are the set of choices that you have made as a businessman, as a CEO, as an operations lead, as a strategy lead, as a business analyst? What are the choices that you've made to achieve that goal? So it's a set of choices aimed at achieving an organization's business objectives as touching a particular marketable entity, which is the product. So moving on. So there are critical components of a product strategy, and I want to run through. I think there are about 6 of them. 5 of them. I want to run through this one by one. Critical components of a product strategy. Number 1 is the target audience or customer. Who is the product for? Who is the product for? It's critical to have a clear definition of who the potential buyer is. So one of the things that we do when we are crafting strategy for businesses, we do market research, yeah, but we also try to create a prototype of the ideal user. So if you have a product, for instance, if you want to start a laundry business in your locality, that's some idea, yeah. The first thing is, who is your target audience? Are they working class males between ages of 25 and 55? Are they working class females between ages of 25 and 55? Are they working class people, sex regardless? Are they no? So there has to be a clear definition. Who is your potential buyer? So you start a laundry business in an area where there are no working class people, knowing fully well that people that go to offices are the ones that most likely need laundry services. People that have their own businesses may or may not. Now, it's important for you to have a clear definition of who will buy this product. Now, also, when you're crafting a proper strategy, it's critical for you to know that you do not have a business idea, then try to validate your business idea. It's important for your idea to be driven by the audience. It has to be driven by customer demand. So you have seen that you have seen a need, that uncovered a need, then you begin to do your research. A lot of times we have an idea in our heads, and we're trying so hard for months and for years to make sure that it fits into the real world. That's usually not how it works. So you have to have a clearly defined audience, have a prototype. My audience for this product are working class people between X and X age. My audience for this service are teenagers between ages 13 and 19. My audience is, very clearly stated. They move on from there to determine if you even have enough people to patronize you. So that's number 1, target audience. Who is the product for? Number 2, customer needs. Now, let me say this. Products almost always fail when they are built to solve hypothetical problems. Now, this is a major problem, and I can tell you, the world over. There have been products that have been built for years because it's been built to solve hypothetical problems. And let me say this is typical of research. Now, it's not entirely wrong to have a product that solves an hypothetical problem, an imagined problem. It's only that it makes sense more in the academic environment where people studying for a master's degree, studying for a PhD, you come up with a problem in your mind and you solve it. It makes sense. You're preparing for the future. So you solve the problem that doesn't exist yet. And of course, it's possible in the future that something related to that problem, the problem will exist, then you can solve the problem. So it makes sense if in research, in academia. But in business, in the real world, it doesn't make sense. You don't have to create products to solve imagined problems. I see that happen a lot of times. So someone creates something, and I'm careful to not give examples, not mention names, to not drag people's sweat in the mud. But there have been products. There was a particular product that was created by giants like uh, top four back in the day. They spent about $100 million to build that product. That's probably 22 years ago. And what has happened over the past 2 decades is they have spent more money trying to create problems for the product to solve than they have spent in building the product itself. They have spent more money trying to create problems, to find problems that the product could solve. So a lot of times when we have an idea in our heads, it does not solve a real problem. It's solves an imagined problem. It's imagined. Now, how do you know it's imagined? It's simple. Survey. So ask yourself a question: is this even a real problem? Number two, if it's a problem, is it worth solving? Number one, is it a problem? But is it worth solving? So, for instance, there's a solution that works today. I have a solution that works, and let's say the solution that works is 70% effective. Yeah, so that's fine. You have an idea, and your idea would for your idea is to develop a solution that would be 71% effective. So you have something that does 70%. You spend $1 million or $10 on something that will be effective 71%. So think about it. So let's assume it's a problem. Yeah, but is it worth solving? Think about it. Is it worth the energy? Is it worth the stress? Is it worth the time? Would anyone want to buy that product for the extra that you're doing? If what you had before was 70% effective, and what you want to do now is like be like 95 to 50. Yes, that's some mileage. A lot of times the questions, the problems are not even real, they're imagined. Number two, it's not worth solving. And I must say this personally, I've been in this situation for quite a number of times. I've been a serial entrepreneur. I started businesses, done businesses, and it came to a point where I realized that I cannot be emotionally attached to my ideas. So these days, when I consult, I speak with people who have ideas, and I tell them that don't be emotionally attached to your ideas. It sounds rash, it sounds cold, like this guy is cold. But the truth is, I learned from my experiences. A lot of times, we're only tired, we're only stuck on that idea because we are emotionally about it. So it's more for you to drop the emotion and ask questions, urgent questions. Is it worth solving? So are you going to solve that problem for yourself and your family alone? This is a problem that only 1% of people in your locality experience. Is it worth solving? A lot of times you would have an idea in your head, and by the time you ask yourself these questions, you try to define an audience, try to define try to understand if it solves a problem. A lot of times, if you're being sincere with yourself, you will drop the product and you move on. But when you have got to take loans from banks, you pitch to investors, getting some money from people, you want to see it through, and that's what results in losses. And I can say this to a level of certainty that I'm sure that most startups that fail, and I say this with all sense of respect, responsibility respect for people who have spent a lot of years, who have spent the sweat and committed time to building startups. I've observed most startups that fail, I'd always known they would fail. There was a point. It's not the point where the startup failed, the impact of that they knew that they would fail. I can tell you for free, I've been there many times. They had known. They got to a point where they found that okay, this thing we are doing is not going to work. But because of the commitment, you've gotten funds, want to see it to a conclusive end, you need to struggle and you hope to make it better. So if you're lucky, you might be able to transform the idea, and able to get something out of it. Or you have some probability that you can transfer to some other business with that idea. But a lot of times people stick with ideas because they are too committed to pull out. So let's move on. I think I've spent quite some time here. Now the third thing to consider is market categorization. Market categorization. How is your product categorized? Now, you must have a well-defined market category. So now I put here the way the human mind works. The human mind works by referencing. So relying on existing information to understand new things. So if you come in with a novel idea, it's fine to put novel, something novel, something new, something like great. It has to fit into market category. So I like people say things and in a bid to not be trapped in the box. They tell you have an idea, but it's nothing you've seen before. So it's fine. You can pitch an investor and say it's something you've seen before, but you cannot get a customer to buy something that they cannot relate to. It's important that there has to be a well-defined market category. Yes, it might be something new, something novel. You can tell that to your financiers, tell that to your co-founders and to your friends and family. But truth is, if you want to get people's money, they have to be able to relate with the product in the light of something they already know. So I put in my slide here, the human mind works by referencing, relying on existing information to understand new things. Customers should be able to understand the product in light of something that they are already familiar with. That is critical. I've had sessions with friends and with people who intend to start companies, and they will say things like, this idea is great, is the next big thing, hasn't been done before. And if when I try to define a category for the idea, they more or less flare up like, no, don't box me. Now let me say, having a market category is not boxing. So it can do all that gymnastics, so do it yourself. But when it comes down to it, it has to have a well-defined market category. I'd like to give an example here, for instance. So Netflix is basically TV, internet TV. Now imagine that Netflix is trying to sell the idea of Netflix without identifying with TV. Imagine they're telling you, no, don't call us TV. This is just Netflix. And they're saying, so Netflix, you can watch on mobile. Yes, we can do that. Watch on mobile, you can watch anywhere. Now, let me say this. Netflix is, and such similar products, is a major motivation for smart TVs. One of the reasons that we have smart TVs everywhere today, because we have products like Netflix. They found a market category. Think about it. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you would not imagine that you could use internet on TV. In fact, what am I even saying? The internet wasn't even that popular 25 years ago. In Nigeria, maybe it became popular maybe in the late 90s. And of course, everywhere else in the world as well. So imagine that you're trying to market a Netflix without identifying with the TV category. Imagine that you're saying, okay, so this is the business I want to do, but don't call it TV. It can't be TV. It's just something genuine. Yeah, it's something ingenious. It's novel. You can watch videos, watch movies on your mobile, on your mobile. Yeah, somebody's saying product market fit. We will not dive deep into that here, but we will speak to it briefly. Yeah. So we'll dive into it later. But of course, what we're saying is actually market categorization. It's some part of it, but it's not it entirely. Now, so it's important for you to be able to define a market category for whatever it is you develop. If you have an idea and you're not yet able to do that, I would say you should wait. Maybe you should do some more research. What I found out is a lot of times when people have an idea and they are unable to they are unable to articulate that idea within the confines of a category. What has happened is most times they're not done their homework. There's more research with them. Yeah, I've seen this happen many times, like 20 times or more than that. Someone has an idea and they're pitching to you, they're telling you what they want to do, and they're saying, no, it's nowhere, you can't see it anywhere else. Just nudge them to research, to ask questions. You find that very soon, you find that what they're trying to do has an existing market category. And if by any means it doesn't have a market category, you need to be able to define it in terms of what customers can already relate with. We're almost getting to the end of the session. I want to be short and impactful. And number 4, customer benefits, not product features. This is a common mistake that startup entrepreneurs make. So you have a business, a product, and for some reason you want to list all the things that you can do that your competitor B cannot do. It's fine, which is fine. Yeah. So you have a product, you want to say you can do X, you can do Y, you can do A, you can do B, but it's fine. What's more important is customer benefits, not product features. Now, all your features might work to deliver one benefit, which is fine, but the focus should not be on features, because in my slide I say benefit speaks to value, features speaks to functionality. Benefit speaks to value, features speaks to functionality. Now, let me say this. So one pitfall that I see in the tech space today is not everyone want to draw a straight line between functionality, features and value. No, features and value. Now, what we fail to understand is value is much larger, quote unquote. So I may derive value from a product due to a combination of many things that I can do that product. Yeah, I can derive value from a product due to one particular thing that I love about it. I know guys that love the iPhone for one reason because it's fast. That's value. Now, imagine you're pitching selling iPhone to that person by listing all the features it has. Value for me is that for that person is, so I pick an iPhone, no matter how many apps I have on it, if I press click, it clicks. If I say go, it goes. If I say come, it comes. I know people who love the iPhone just for that. That's value for them. But features speak to functionality, and you cannot determine what features people like. You know, I remember when before Maps, before Google Maps became popular, there was this application that we used, and I think it came with Sony Xperia phones. It was, I think it's Wise Pilot. It was also a navigation application before Google Maps became a thing. And when Google Maps became a thing, let me tell you, became popular. I know people who stuck with Wise Pilot for very long. They didn't have reason to switch to Google Maps. Of course, because we Google Maps now, telling a lot of things, location sharing, you could do, drop in, a lot of things. Now, they have reason to shift. So imagine you are trying to sell a Google Maps and you're listing all the features you got. Features. So it's fine to list features, yeah, but speak more to benefits, customer benefits. Now, it asks, how does this product make my life better? The shorter, the better. The more straightforward, the better. How does this product make my life better? Simply, if you do X, Y, Z, our product does X, Y, Z. Now, how does it make my life better? That is value. So you must have a tangible, well-defined benefit. Do you have any questions yet? I will soon be done with my slides and we can take questions. So the next thing, I think I have one more slide after this, is competition. So I say this, the major reason for strategy is to lead competition. See, there's no reason to strategize if you don't want to compete. So I understand there's some elements of strategy that are applied within the business. So I mean, in a business place, you have members of staff, you spend money on, maybe you spend money on utility, and you sit and say, how do we minimize costs? How do we spend less on staff? Well, that's some sort of strategy. Yeah? It's internal through and through. So you want to see how do we pay less salaries? How do we cut down on waste, food waste? How do we cut down on power consumption? No, it's fine. So those are also strategic approaches to operations. However, I'm more interested in strategy as it relates to competition. Because in the end, there's only so much optimization you can do for your business. In the end, the intention is to lead competition. That's the intention. You want to have an advantage over your competitors. So now it's expedient to understand competition from the customer's perspective. This is important. You must understand competition from the customer's perspective. Now, what they do is they check, they look at the competitors from their own perspective. So that they're saying it is like, so my business, we've got 10,000 users. They have got 30,000 users, but they have a good interface. They've got some nice user experience. So they have great customer service. It's fine. These are all fine. But it makes more sense if you elicit all of those from the customer's perspective. Try to ask customers, why are you choosing these guys over us? Now, if you understand why customers are adopting that solution over your own, it's much easier for you to come up with strategy to lead competition. What happens most of the time is people sit in the boardroom or in their own minds, and they begin to think about how to get better than their competition. Instead of asking the customer, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, why are you adopting product B instead of our own product? So it's critical to understand competition in the light of from the angle of the customer. So it tells you things like, what does that tell you about the competing product? So if the customer chooses to buy somebody else's product, now ask them, what does that tell you? So why are they buying that product and not buying yours? So I have a last slide before we call it a day and we take questions. So 7, differentiation. This is the last critical component of strategy I want to talk about today. Differentiation. What makes the product stand out? Now, the easiest way to stand out and cut through the clutter is to have a product that stands out. Not necessarily being the cheapest one or having the most features, but finding a particular thing and doing it really well. If possible, so well it is incomparable with any other. I'll say it again. The easiest way to cut through the clutter is to have a product that stands out. Not necessarily being the cheapest or one with the most features, but finding a particular thing and doing it really well. If possible, so well it is incomparable with any other. Make your product stand out. It has to stand out. What is that you are doing differently from the word differentiation? What are you doing differently? Now, let me say this. It doesn't mean that you have the cheapest product. And there's a very popular example that I will cite now. We have Samsung, we have the iPhone. For Christ's sake, the iPhone is much more expensive. Much more, matter of fact, yeah. And people buy iPhones for many reasons. It stands out. There are things that it does, and it does those things effectively well. I can spend a whole day breaking down the proper strategy of Apple. Why Apple? Why iPhone is where it is? Why Samsung is where it is? Yeah, but it's important for you to understand that being offering additional features or additional benefits or lowering your price is not actually going to make your product stand out. That's a very very simplistic approach to it. So you feel that by bringing down your price, by selling below the cost, it makes you stand out. It doesn't really. What you need to do is to find a particular thing Now, I will also add that find a particular thing that aligns with your capabilities. Find a particular thing that aligns with your own skills, the skills that are peculiar to you. So you have a business. There's something that you must do well. See, everybody has something that they do well. So you have a business, you have competitors. What is that thing that you do more than others? What is that thing? So find that thing and apply that to your products. Ensure that you find that thing and do it really well. It makes a difference. I said, if possible, so it is incomparable with any other. Incomparable. Now, one of the motivations of perhaps the major the major reason that we have an iPhone today was because the late Steve Jobs. I read it somewhere that he called the engineers and said, see, there's so much innovation, quote unquote, in that space. We have Nokia, we've got Sargent, Sony Ericsson making phones, Sendo, Motorola, Alcatel making phones, and you need to do something differently. This number seven, this 7 point of mine is the major reason that we have and and uh, and we have Apple iPhones today. So he called engineer and he said, see, I want a phone that will not have any buttons. The first response was, it is not possible. It can't happen. I want a phone that will have no buttons. No buttons. Now, they tried, and eventually they came up with something, and we have an iPhone. Don't forget, immediately the iPhone came out and became popular, some other players in the industry also began to do the same thing. If you remember, there was some BlackBerry that came out at that time. They also didn't have it was touch screen. It was push screen. In fact, that's push screen. No, yeah, people try to mimic it and there, but truth is, Apple found something that they could do very well and did it so very well. And from that moment, it kind of changed. It changed the industry totally. So yeah, they built something that was very different. So now I have a postscript before I hand over to Mr. Femi. Just to be clear, there are many strategic approaches to leading competition, apart from having a product that stands out. I'm saying this because in mature industries, in industries where we have major players, you can all afford to think, you can all afford to buy people that think, you can all afford to spend money on research, of course R&D, you can afford to forward integrate, backward integrate. Now at that point in mature industries, there's already a dominant design. So there may not be a lot of room to stand out. So there's not a lot of room to stand out. Yes, that's so. This is not the only way to leading competition. So I'm just putting that there so that we understand that this is only is not applicable in all scenarios. So that's my time for today, Mr. Femi. I want to hand over to you. You have the floor. I cannot hear you. Can you hear me, Mr. Femi? Can anyone hear you?
No, can you hear you?
Okay, we cannot hear you, sir. I
Sorry, I
think
had to
you're
just
muted.
unmute myself. Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yes, you can hear
Okay,
you.
loud and clear.
So thank you for your time, Mr. Adekunle. That's a good one. So Timothy, are
Yes,
you
I have
there?
a question. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, please go ahead, please.
Okay, my question is, as a mentee on this program who has not started a business, if I want to venture into a business, how do I identify the needs of my audience as a novice that is trying to venture into the business world? How do I identify my audience needs?
Okay. So you've asked you've asked a PhD question in the master class. So so it's what I'll do is I'll just speak to a couple of things and maybe you can take some lessons. So first thing is this. It's really not important to create something new. I think all of the pitfalls that we find ourselves in as businessmen is we want to create something new, especially when you are still very enthusiastic. A lot of times it's better to innovate. As a matter of fact, most of the biggest tech companies in the world today were built on innovation, not necessarily on invention. In fact, in the past 100 years, I'm not sure that many industries built on invention, in innovation. So we had the carrier vehicles innovated into the combustion engine vehicles. Innovation. Now we have automatic engine vehicles. Innovation. So I think you need to look more in the angle of innovation than to create something new. I'm not saying you cannot create something new, and so it's a yes and no. So I would say that you may create something new, but at the deeper level, I would say you cannot create anything new, really. But we can talk about that one on one later. But essentially, I would advise that you look more into innovating, advancing what has been done, innovating. So there are solutions around you. You've seen people do things. How can you do it better? And there's a formula to that. There's a simple formula to it, and the formula is why not? So why not? So you ask why. So there's something that people do. You ask why you do these things. Then you ask why not this other way. So when you're asking why not, you list all the other ways it could have been done. Why? Why not? Then why not? Why not? So that there are three elements. You ask why. Why are we doing this thing this way? So these are three elements to innovation. You ask why. Why are you doing this thing this way? That's your why. Then why not this other way? So you ask why not this other way? So you list the other ways that it could be done. Like 10, 15 other ways it could be done, or 20, like 40 ways. Why not? Now, by asking why not, you now ask why not, why not? So why are we not using those other ways, those 10 other ways? This is a simple formula to innovate. And I'm, of course, I should be charging you like 10,000 USD for this one I just gave you. But it's fine. It's fine. So look more in the look more in that direction. Try to think more about how you can advance on already existing solutions, how you can innovate than think about how to create new things. I think I've done justice to that in the conference of our time.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Phillips, any question from your side? Philip, are you with us? Can you please unmute yourself? I actually muted your page.
Yeah, can you
Okay,
hear
you're
me now,
good.
sir? Yes,
Yes.
sir. Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks the presenter. The question I would like to ask is that you give us these seven critical components of a product strategy, and normally developing products, there are some challenges that do come about. Which one do somebody, in formulating a strategy about the product, which one is the most important that someone will concentrate upon, should be more focused upon, so as to carry the others along?
Okay, so if I get you correctly, you're asking to know the most critical components of this critical component. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I was, and this is my opinion really. There's been businesses that have been built around different around each of these seven. So like I just said, the iPhone was built around the differentiation, doing something and standing out that you're doing something very well. So there have been other products that were built around find a way to lead competition. But I would say that in my own opinion, it's important for you to get the first two right. Get if you're able to identify an audience and you can define your audience and you are sure that this thing I want to do, there's 1 million people or there's 2 million people or there are 1 billion people in the world that will buy. That's the very first. So it's not for you to just define that or you are sure that whatever it is that you're doing, it will solve a particular problem for X number of people. That's key for me. That's keyest for me. Second is customer needs, and this is the one I spent the most time on. So these two for me are very important. Now you need to be sure that the product the product you're coming up with solves a problem. It sounds simple, yeah. A lot of times people think that it's that simple, but it's not that simple. Because is there a real problem? I mean, within the context of your environment, is that thing you're trying to solve, is it a real problem? And if it is it worth solving? So I feel that for me, I think these are the two foundational components that you must consider. If you're able to scale this, you're able to define your audience, and you're also able to to determine that there's a problem to solve. Then I think you can always build on top of this and do it. Of course, you have to now look at other things, differentiation, competition, benefits. But for me, these two are the most critical. You know, I see a question here in the comment box. So somebody is asking that I speak to context diagram. So context diagram is, of course, we talked about this in business analysis. It's very simple. The context diagram provides context. In the word, it provides context to a set of activities. So when you do business analysis work, one of the things that happens is it starts from a very abstract level. And one of the reasons that it's a highly sought skill because it's abstract, quote unquote. It means that you're tasked with responsibility to articulate a problem and to make it make sense. So it's not easy to make things make sense. People who have a problem, usually what you will hear is, oh, this company is losing money. This country is losing money. We're spending too much on food. We're spending too much on fuel. Yeah. But you need to make it make sense. And in my experience doing business analysis work, but for myself, in the place that I've worked, in my consulting practice, I found out that one of the biggest challenges is to articulate the problem. Most times, I would say that 6 in 10 times, the problem is usually not what the client thinks it is. Maybe partially so, yeah, but it's usually not what the client thinks it is. So now the context diagram provides context to the activity. So there's a problem. We have come up with there's a high level solution. So we have a problem. We spend too much money on gas, for instance, or we spend too much money let's say on power. Then it has to come up with a solution, a tech client solution. So you want to build an application. You have something in your mind. Now, how do you present that in a way that makes sense? And this now brings us to designs. So like I was saying during the class, a design is a usable representation of a solution. If you have a solution in your mind, there has to be a design. So as design is to solution, the context diagram is to activities, business activities. So your solution cannot make sense if there's no design. So you want to tell me what it is that you want to do to solve this problem. It has to be a context diagram that provides context. So you've been speaking grammar here, but what's the context in which this will be solved? So it's the And there are quite a number of contexts, the number of business analysis perspectives. So, for instance, let me give an example. So, one of the case studies that we used in the class in the BA mentorship session was tax collection. And let me quickly run through. We're saying that so the Lagos State government wants to clamp down on street fights. They found that there a lot of clashes by motor vehicle operators and tax collectors, and they are looking for it to stop that. So they decided to come up with an e-tax payment system. This is a case study. It's a scenario. It's not. It doesn't have to do with what happens in the real world. So now they come up with an idea, a big idea. So let's do the platform so that the bus drivers can pay their taxes to us using their cards, their ATM card, which is fine. Now, this is where it gets interesting. To present this solution, you have to present it within the context. So what it means is, if you now have the tax system and the bus drivers begin to pay the taxes through the ATM cards, they have to pay anything physically. Now it solves the problem of clashes. Now it solves the problem of clashes between vehicle operators and tax collectors. It solves that problem. So there may be clashes without that context. So there might still be clashes for some other thing. Yeah, but the context here, we only solve the problem within the context of tax collection from motor vehicle owners and tax collectors. So now that's the idea of control. Now, if you're presenting this solution, maybe you want to use like of course using Visio or using some other application to draw to have a context like that. This provides the context. It shows the context. Now, it kind of it confines. So it tells us this is the solution that this is the problem that this solution will solve. It won't solve all the problems, but solve the problem within the limits of this thing. So long and short, it provides context and solution. Because it can be vague, where it gives us context. It tells us exactly how it will be implemented and the problem it will solve. So I think there's another question I saw there. So
Sorry, before you go on to the next question, please.
okay,
Yes, there are certain things I'm not clear about this context diagram. The from the
okay,
case study from the case study, uh, I discovered that we have in context and out of context. Those two terminologies. What's their difference? What do they mean in the context diagram? What do they represent in a context diagram?
so I think that you have mixed it up. What we have is within scope and out of scope.
Yes, within and out of
Context,
scope. Yes.
so context and scope are two different things. So scope of work usually is so scope defines the limit of our involvement, generally speaking. So your scope of work, for instance, as a teacher only captures preparing lesson notes, delivering lectures in class, admission exam. That is scope. So scope speaks to the things that you should and that you shouldn't do. That is scope. It speaks to the things that you should and should not do. Whereas the context diagram provides context. It makes the reader understand better the confines of your solution. So now, if you have a design, if you have like a solution in your mind, if you want to solve this problem in this particular way, if you refer to our case study, you see that the context diagram is it explains what we are trying to do, like using charts, using maps, process maps. So you now have something like canteen manager does this. The employee places order. The order is processed by so and so person. Delivery person. Now it provides context for the solution. Now what I'm saying now, I'm diving deep. So you can now see actually what each of the participants, the actors do. But before now, what we knew was we want to build an application that will help us deliver our services better, that will help us cut down on waste. So that is what we had generally. But the context diagram provides deeper insight, more detailed insights. So whoever sees your diagram, oh, okay, so what you are saying is that you want to have an application where somebody can place an order. When you place an order, another person picks it up and it goes to the kitchen. So it provides context. So scope is a different thing entirely. Scope speaks to the things that you should or should not do. So I think that
Yes, I'm
I
clear
think
now. Yes.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you
So
very
I
much.
see a question here. You're welcome, boss. So throw more light on the agile environment. So agile environment, I'll just speak to this briefly. It's very something that we can spend all day talking about. So I think it's easier to understand agile uh, based on based on okay, from the project management perspective. So agile, of course, I will explain agile in comparison with waterfall. So waterfall and agile are two project management approaches. The approaches to project management. The traditional approach is called waterfall. This approach is called agile. So it's easier to understand agile if you understand waterfall and what it's about. So from time immemorial, when we say there's a project uh, that's been implemented, the approach is usually that there's a there's a there's extensive research is done. So we do some requirements gathering, requirement analysis. We gather requirements, analyze requirements. Then of course, they get the sponsor to approve that the project be implemented. Then they come up with the subject matter experts come up with the design, project design, and it's a project plan. And the plan is such that there are sequence of events. There's a duration of the events. There are specific outcomes of the event, of every event. So that's the project. It's called waterfall. Now, even the idea of project itself is something that has a beginning and has an end. The project is not meant to last forever. It's only in Nigeria where we see the project lasting for 40 years. The project has a beginning and an end. So now the traditional approach to project is waterfall. It has a beginning, it has an end. There's a sequence of activities. I think the most important thing here is to understand that there's a sequence of activities in the waterfall approach. You have activity A that has to be completed for activity B. Now, one other thing you should know about the waterfall approaches, more often than not, value will not be delivered until the project is completed or is almost completed. So, for instance, for example, if you want to build a house, build a house. Now, you cannot say value has been delivered until you're able to live in the house. Yes, but somebody does excavation because they do land clearing, soil testing, they get approvals from government bodies to erect a structure. They do they excavate foundation, many things. They start block work. All of that is work. Yeah, it's so much work. But you cannot say value has been delivered until you're able to get to the house and live in the house. So what it means is it doesn't matter how much you spend. If you spend 90% of your budget, all of that without roof, or even with roof without door, you can't say that value has been delivered fully delivered. That's one thing with that's the general idea of waterfall project. Now, agile now. One of the things that are the major motivation behind agile is tech. So, like I was saying before, there's been a transition from project to products. There's been a transition also from waterfall to agile, in the sense that we now have a lot of products that are software. So initially, before project management became product management, in between we had what we call software project management. At some point that was like the buzzword. So you hear people say, I'm recruiting for a software project manager. Now, one of the major motivations for agile is the proliferation of software projects. Now, in software projects, things can't be done the same way, because in a software project, things change every day. It's almost impossible to fix the scope. So if you're building a house, for instance, it's a design already. I have a design for the house. It's a two-story building, it's a four-story building, it's a five-story building. It's a design already. Yeah, and you know when you have the design, you cannot get somewhere and say no, let's turn it into a seven-story building. Also, no, I want it so it's defined. But the main difference between that and agile is for software projects, it's ever changing. So get to a point where you encounter issues and the customer feels that, see, hey, we can't go on this way. Let's change this. Now, it's now important for us to address the issue of frozen scope. So, Mr. Timothy, now scope is coming in. Frozen scope. The scope is frozen in the waterfall approach, but in agile scope is not frozen. So the scope can change. So there's something that we call the triple constraint in project management. So in waterfall, we have the scope, cost, and time. The scope is frozen in waterfall. The cost also is frozen, but you can get variation. We have the scope, we have the cost, and the time. You can make a case. You can make a case for the cost, for additional cost to be approved. But scope is frozen. Scope is frozen. Now, in agile, instead of scope being frozen, scope is flexible. It's not frozen. It's not fixed. But cost and time. So sorry, cost is flexible. So what I mean is in an agile sprint. So in an agile we call it sprint. In an agile sprint, maybe a sprint should last for 4 weeks. So what happens is by the end of the 4th week, whatever it is that you have done is what you have done. The time is fixed. The time won't change. The scope can change, but time will not change. So once you finish your time, or once you finish the budget for the sprints, it's over. Don't forget, in the waterfall approach, the scope is frozen. It cannot change. Yeah, but the time can increase. You can apply for approval for more 4 months. When agile, we are more flexible with the scope because that's what makes sense. So, for instance, you want to build me an application, and you have built it. Then we launch the application. We find that customers prefer a red button, for instance, to a red button to a green button. Scope has to change. Now, the focus, the main focus of the agile team is to deliver value in bits. Every point, every step of the way you are delivering value. Unlike in waterfall where the building has to be totally built before you can say you have delivered value. In agile, every sprint must deliver value. So even though the scope has changed and the scope is changing, the time and cost are frozen, it's important for the agile team to deliver value with every sprint. So if you're building an app for me, for instance, the sprint 1 is 4 weeks. I expect that value be delivered in those 4 weeks. You can't come to say, so we spent 4 weeks, but because you kept changing the scope, we are unable to use this application until for 3 or 4 other sprints are completed. No, every sprint will deliver value. So in the agile approach, value has to be delivered iteratively in pieces. So we don't wait for the project to conclude before we deliver value. So it means that if you want to build a product, a software, and the budget is 1 million US, 1 million US, that's much. Let's start with $200,000. Let's prioritize some features. Let's see what works. So $200,000 here, we have a 4 week, 7 week sprints. This is the budget. $200,000. You can't exceed it. This is the time. This is the time we're going to spend, and this is the scope. The scope can change, but the major the duty of the agile team is to ensure that value is delivered with every sprint iteratively. So you don't have to wait and have 1 million USD for us to
Sorry.
do. So there are quite a lot of things about agile that we can't exhaust in one night. Okay,
Okay, I want to ask a question, please. Yes.
go ahead,
Does
please.
that mean okay? Does that mean that the scope changes with customer requirements?
Yes. Okay. So yes. So the agile approach is more customer centric. So there are about 12 there are about 12 things that stand the agile approach apart. It's more customer centric, and there's a lot of collaboration with the customer in the agile approach. Normally, if in the conventional waterfall approach, the customer gives you the requirements. If they're coming to change the scope, they will pay. It will attract some more, of course they will incur some more costs, and of course you can even charge them for you can even submit a request for duration to say, see, this was the agreement, because the project plan has to be signed off. They've signed off project charter. It's been signed off. Once it's signed off, it cannot change. If it's changing, it comes with terms. So, but the agile approach is more customer centric in the sense that the customer the works together with the team, the development team, the agile team. So we give air to the customer. So the scope will change as customer request, but don't forget that the cost and the time are frozen. So you can change scope however you want. It's my duty as the one who leads the agile team to ensure that we deliver value within that time and ensure that for every sprint, value is delivered. Even if you try to change scope, we ensure that we design the sprint in such a way that we deliver value. So if you decide to not continue with the project, say, okay, this is what I want for now. I can only afford to go this far. Then hand over what you have to you. You can make do with it. So I'm sure I'm sure you've seen this. Maybe you haven't realized. Look at Google, for instance. Google probably have like 25 applications. Google Drive, Google Mail, Google everything, Google Forms, Google Classrooms. Yeah, but they all didn't come in one day. At first it was Gmail. We all knew Gmail. Then we had Google Drive. Then we had Google Forms. Then Google Calendar. Then like that. So that's how it is really. Now the fact that we didn't have all of these other Google applications did not stop Gmail from working. It works. So you see that it's imagine that we wanted to build a Google from the waterfall approach. Think about it. Waterfall, there has to be a plan. It's airtight. It's concrete. This is the plan. This is the scope of work. You have signed off. This is how much you're paying for this. It's how long it will take. It's how the resources it will require. Yeah, but that will not work for software project. Let me also say this. And this is something that a lot of people do not talk about when they talk about agile. Let me say this. Not all projects, not all initiatives are suitable for agile. For instance, civil projects or structural projects are still, it makes sense to approach them using waterfall, because of the peculiarity of the industry. A lot of the designing has to be done from the onset. So design has to be done, they has to be approved by bodies. Think about it, it has to approve design. So you can't just say you want to change design, because if you change design, you have to go back for approval. So you see that there's some. So it's not, agile is not suitable for all projects, but it's suitable more for tech projects, and that's that's the in thing today. And also telecom projects or installation projects. In my experience, I've been privileged to work in telecom for some time. I think it makes more sense to adopt the waterfall approach, or the hybrid in the sense that some part waterfall, some part agile for telco projects. So just say that so you know that not all projects are suitable for agile.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are we done?
Yes, yes. There are no other questions.
Okay, I think we are done for the day, man. That's a good one. We are done for the day, and I believe this class is still continuing for another. I mean, the master class. We still have one more day, right?
Yeah, we've got one more day.
Okay, to go on Monday. All right. So thank you so much. I think we will continue discussion in the groups, in the various groups, all right? Why we call the life, you know, to a close. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you,
It's
sir.
been a long day since
Thank
I
you,
think
sir.
we started session since 10 a.m. Some of you have participated in a series of classes today. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful
Thank you.
weekend.